Welcome to Ode to Games. My name is Logan Plan, joined today by the usual suspects. Kevin Valine, what's up, Kev?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm a little sad today, Kevin.
Yeah.
We'll get to why in just a second. We're also
Oh,
joined by Zach Ross. Hey, Zach.
well, now I'm sad too, and I don't even know why we're sad.
We're sad because Netflix is pulling support on the 3DS and the Wii U.
End of an
I
era.
watched a lot of Netflix on my 3DS back in the day. It was the only device that I had, and I watched all of Futurama on it from start to finish.
Man, when Netflix
And,
had Futurama, I don't think they have it anymore, do they?
Yeah.
No, they
No,
do
they
not.
don't. It's on
Throwback.
Hulu now, I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Hulu's
but
got like all the TV shows.
And there's no Netflix on Switch either.
How
so
is that?
No,
How is that even
I
a
don't
thing?
know.
How is it not on there? They finally got the
It's
YouTube
in-
app on
yeah.
there. Was
Mhm.
it?
I know they have Hulu, right?
Hulu's on there.
Hulu's
right?
on Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's baffling that.
Yeah, I use that a lot.
So basically, at this point, now that it's getting shut down, you can't watch Netflix on a Nintendo device because Wii was shut down a while back.
Yeah. Remember when Netflix on Wii had a disc you had to put in to use it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
good stuff. But yeah, Netflix really needs to make its way to Switch. Maybe that will be one of our predictions later in the episode. Maybe not. We're going to get to some big predictions for the year 2021. We're also going to recap our predictions from 2020, see how well we did. We did all right, actually. There were a couple things that came true or pretty much came true. So look forward to that later on in the episode. But we're going to start with the news headlines from the week. First up, Nintendo bought Next Level Games, the developers of most recently Luigi's Mansion 3, also Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Mario Strikers, Metroid Prime Federation Force, and Punch Out on Wii. They developed all of those games. So they've basically been doing exclusive Nintendo things for a while now, but now they're just an official part of Nintendo's first party umbrella. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty cool story. I think it makes a lot of sense because, like I said, they have been a primarily Nintendo developer, but this kind of guarantees that we'll see some Nintendo stuff from them for years to come.
Yeah, I kind of thought that they were already a Nintendo developer. So this was surprising in that sense, but I don't think too many things will change too much because they have been developing pretty exclusively for Nintendo for quite some time. I'm just hoping that we get another Strikers game, really. That's my goal. I just want them to make another Strikers.
I agree. It's time. And not another Federation Force based on what I have heard about that game.
Don't go back to that well. Or another Punch Out. People Punch Out on Wii's pretty good.
Zach played Punch Out on Wii.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. I
played some more Little Mac in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty good game. So it's mostly been hits from Next Level working with Nintendo recently. I think Federation Force is the big outlier, but the Strikers games are great. Luigi's Mansion 3 is fantastic. I've heard pretty good things about 2. I haven't played it myself, and then Punch Out is also really good. So yeah, this is a cool move. A Canadian studio. This is one I remember when we were talking about games made in different regions.
Yeah.
And Canada has Next Level Games. So yeah, pretty cool because I remember playing Luigi's Mansion 3 and it felt like something that Nintendo EAD would make over in Japan. So they really do nail that Nintendo charm in most of their games. Mario Strikers, the tone is extremely different than anything we've seen Mario do before. It's extremely gritty and dark, and yeah, like what Waluigi and Wario do, like pelvic thrusts on the soccer balls, and it's a pretty different showcase for Mario and characters, but beyond that, but they're still great games, and I'm excited to see what they do next. And I agree with Cap. I hope it's another Mario sports title. We haven't really gotten one since Mario Tennis. There's only one Mario sports title on the Switch, and I think that's kind of surprising.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten a non-tennis sports game starring Mario in quite some time. Was it golf on the 3DS?
Well, it was Sports Superstars on the 3DS.
I don't count those. I honestly don't count those. It's like a dedicated sport. You know, we got tennis, we got golf, we got baseball, soccer.
I think it was golf on 3DS was the last one.
Yeah. Could go for another one. A good one.
Yeah,
Volleyball.
Definitely.
Volleyball. Dead or Alive.
That's in Mario
Extreme
Sports
Beach Volleyball
Mix.
Starring Mario.
I played Mario Sports Mix. That's why I thought about it.
The volleyball in that game is not very good.
I remember liking it. So I want a dedicated game to it.
It is such a mediocre Mario Sports game. It is.
I think it might be the only one I've ever played.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot to go off of.
Let's go play some.
Except for Mario Tennis Aces, but We all know how I feel about that game.
That is a great game. It is a great game that Zach just irrationally dislikes.
You've never had to play it with you.
I guess not.
Yeah.
I do think that we're going to see a new Luigi's Mansion at some point from Next Level. I don't know if they'd put it on Switch. I don't know if Luigi's Mansion 4 would be on the same platform, but Luigi's Mansion 3 sold incredibly well. Like, it's probably going to be like a 10 million unit seller by the time it's done. And that's insane for a spin-off game starring Luigi. That's really, really good. So, and it's a great game. Kevin and I both loved it. So I'm excited for whenever that comes at some point in the future. But yeah, pump out another Mario sports game in between before Luigi's Mansion 4, because I think the Switch could do for one of those maybe sometime this year, like in the summer or something like that. Could be a good kind of mid-year launch for Nintendo Switch.
Just more Mario sports games.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Moving on from that, let's stick with Nintendo for a second. This next story is about Amazon's top 10 best-selling games of 2020. And it's almost all Nintendo games. This list is pretty wild. Let's count it down. Animal Crossing New Horizons Physical Edition. Number 2, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Zach, don't forget, you only have 2 months left. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. A almost 4-year-old port of an almost 7-year-old game, was the 3rd best-selling video game on Amazon this year. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the digital edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons. So it makes this list 2 times, which is insane. The PS4 version of Cyberpunk 2077. I wonder how many of those were returned. Ring Fit Adventure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Ring Fit Adventure, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, The Last of Us Part 2, and number 10 is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So an insane year for Nintendo Switch, and most of these games aren't even new. Most of them are old. Well, I guess
Animal Crossing, 3D All-Stars.
Yeah, the other Animal Crossing,
Hyrule Warriors.
And Hyrule Warriors. Yeah. So half of Nintendo's entries in the top 10 are new, and then the other half, Smash, Mario Kart, Breath of the Wild, and Ring Fit, all did not come out this year.
Is that Breath of the Wild on the Wii U or the Switch?
The Wii U getting an uptick.
Yeah, it was a hot collector's item during the pandemic. But yeah, it's just crazy to see how well Nintendo has bounced back. We're 4 years into the Switch's life cycle, and 8 of the top 10 games were in the top 10. That's insane. And it's basically, I think the Switch is going to go on to be more successful to the Wii. And I think that these numbers kind of show that sustained success. It's not just casual games. Like, these are some of Nintendo's best games, like most well-known games and titles. But I think that the software is just going to have a longer tail than it did on the Wii. We've talked about on this show how the Wii software sales weren't that great. People picked up the console, played Mario Kart, played Wii Sports, and not much else. But I think this list kind of shows that people are paying attention to Nintendo's other major releases on the platform.
Absolutely.
Another surprise on here that the digital edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons is in the top 5 before any other platform. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. So, man, Animal Crossing the physical edition is already number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with the digital edition, it's like almost double 3D All-Stars at a minimum. It's crazy. Yeah.
Some wild.
And then 3D All-Stars coming out in September, and then coming up to number 2 is something also. Yeah.
How much of that is based on the timed exclusivity thing?
Yeah.
It's still existing. Who knows?
Gonna be honest, I don't think that much. I really don't think that much. I think this game would have sold insanely well, even if that wasn't a thing.
I think it's.
I don't know if it'd be number 2, but it'd be in the top 10.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it would sell really well, but I think some of its sales can be attributed to that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who would have waited longer to pick it up. But still.
I would hope so, because that's probably the reason why they did it.
Yeah. I bet there's also a lot of casual Switch players who don't even know the limited release is a thing that bought this on Amazon. Like, that's something I've wondered lately, is how many people outside of the hardcore gaming news sphere know that Super Mario 3D All-Stars is a limited time release. I wonder that.
And how many people are going to be caught off guard when it is pulled?
Yeah.
I was going to buy that next week.
Yeah, and it's just gone.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So make sure you buy it if it's out there.
But
I've played 9 of these games. I have not played Cyberpunk 2077, but I've played every other game on this list. I guess there's only 9 games on the list. I've played 8 of them. But yeah, pretty cool. to see Nintendo doing so well, especially for us Wii U fans like me who were in the dark ages just 5 years ago, hoping that they were going to be able to bounce back. So yeah, good stuff. And our last story for the day is that Sony Japan is discontinuing production on all PlayStation 4 Pro models and every PS4 model except a Slim model. And I'm sure that the flip side of this is they'll be able to ramp up PS5 production, which makes sense because that's been a problem, but just another sign of the generation shifting over. I was a little surprised to see the Pro get discontinued that quickly. It seems like they're now going to be pushing the budget Slim model if you just want a PS4 or the PS5 for that 4K experience.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense to just stop PS4 Pro models because if you're going for a Pro, I feel like the people who are in the market for a PS4 Pro or were in the market for a PS4 Pro would just be going to the PS5.
Looking towards
now.
PS5. Yep.
So I don't think they'd be getting too many more sales from that. I am a little surprised at how quickly they're discontinuing all of these models. I guess there is still the one that's still around, but we're 2 months removed from the launch of PS5. Yeah. That's not a long amount of time for these to go off.
Still not easy to get a PS5.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that I was thinking about. I'm sure that you can buy a lot of used consoles for the PS4 in a lot of these shops, but it is a little bit surprising with PS5 being as hard as it is to come by right now that they would remove that option. But I guess if that does allocate more resources, if that is what they're going to do for PS5, then it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of the decision to discontinue it so soon, right? Is that it is nearly impossible to get a PlayStation 5, and the right business move was to clear up some of that factory space to manufacture more of those boxes. But yeah, the end of an era. We love the PS4. In a couple of episodes, we'll be counting down the top 10 PS4 games of all time for episode 150.
Woo!
So yeah.
Away.
Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077. We were kind of holding off on this episode because we thought that might make it. We thought games like that and some other ones had a shot, but no, sir. So we're ready. We've got our 10 game list pretty much locked and loaded. So look forward to that coming up in a couple weeks. But it's been a light news week to kick off 2021. I do want to mention really quick, there is a Monster Hunter Rise event that is just hours after we're recording this episode. So I'm sure they revealed new monsters, probably details about the demo that they were going to launch this month. So go check that out. We'll have more to say on that next week. But for now, Zach, we'll send it over to you.
Yeah, well, real quick, I don't know how much more I want to see on the Rise front. I don't know if I've seen enough going into it coming out in March. Are you planning on diving into this new update on what's coming out, or
is it March? March that it comes?
Yeah, it is. It's coming out March 26th. We are 2.5 months away.
Really coming.
I mean, something I regret.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but considering that you've already pre-ordered the thing and you're gonna like it because it's Monster Hunter, I don't.
Sure.
Would you need to watch it? I don't know.
I don't need to see anymore. No, I'll probably follow it, but not look too closely at what they reveal.
Yeah,
I really just want to know kind of the nitty-gritty gameplay details that we don't know.
Yeah. We don't really care. We want to wait on seeing the new monsters and all the cool new stuff. We just want to know if the game's easy to play, how much translates over from Monster Hunter World, the new mechanics, what old mechanics to bring over, some of the technical stuff, just to make our lives a little bit easier. So that's what we'll be looking out for. But enough of the news. We are moving into what we've been playing this week. I will go last because I want Logan to go first. I don't even know if you've been playing a lot this week, Logan. You've been pretty busy?
I have not been playing too much. Mostly, I've been playing Immortals Fenyx Rising, which I briefly mentioned last week. I have it on PS5. That game went 50% off at light speed.
As Ubisoft games do.
Yeah, it was so quick to be discounted. But I've been playing that, and I am enjoying it so far. I'm probably 6 or 7 hours in at this point. Made it through the prologue, and now I've kind of been set loose upon the open world. I'm enjoying it so far. I think I was talking to Kevin a little bit about this. Something that's really nagging at me is that a lot of the issues I have with this game are the same issues I had in Breath of the Wild, and I'm disappointed that the team that made this, that took so much from Breath of the Wild, didn't really fix any of the problems that were in that game. So, for example, there are vaults in this game. There are 60 vaults spread across the world instead of 120 shrines spread across Hyrule and Breath of the Wild.
Of course.
And just like in Breath of the Wild, all of the vaults have the exact same aesthetic. They all look identical inside. It's a really cool look. It's kind of this galactic feel when you're underground inside of them. They're really pretty looking, but they're all the same so far. I don't know if that changes further in the game, but I've gone in vaults in multiple regions and they've all looked the same. So that kind of has me thinking that this is just what they look like. A couple things that are improved: weapons don't break, which is really nice. When you fire arrows, your arrows are magical, so they just regenerate. You don't have to find arrows or craft arrows. It's just like by gathering resources, you can upgrade how many arrows you can have. So like you start with 6 and then you can upgrade to 8, and they just take like 5 seconds to regenerate a single arrow. So that's really nice. I'm really liking the progression system so far. There are axes, which are your heavy attack, and swords, which are your light attack. And then there's defense and a few other skills. And basically, by gathering resources and going to upgrade these things, instead of upgrading each individual sword, you upgrade your sword ability as a whole. And then once you get to level 4, every sword in your inventory has a new perk that unlocks. And so you can constantly mix and match your abilities, which is different than having to grind for all these resources to upgrade one item at a time, which is really nice. And I don't know, I just think it's a really player-friendly move to not make you... I think something I get overwhelmed with in open world games is you feel like you kind of have to decide what your character is going to be right away. Because then if you spend all these resources going in one direction and then you're like, I really want this skill, but it's so far out of reach on the skill tree, it would take hours and hours to get there. This kind of eliminates that because it's basically saying, no, you just upgrade your swords and then you have all the abilities at your disposal and can swap between them at will. So I think that's really, really cool. The world is cool.
Do you still find it easy to like swap between different... I assume there's different weapon types. Now, if you're leveling up the one, do you still think it's relatively easy if you want to try a different play style to swap to one of the other weapons, or are you more railroaded into the one that you've upgraded?
Well, it's only swords and axes are the only weapons.
So there's only 2.
Because it's light and heavy attack. So I've only upgraded the sword so far because I'm still pretty early in. But no, it shouldn't be too difficult because there are only a handful of things to upgrade, which I actually think is nice. Like it's kind of a simple open world experience in that way. I like the world and exploration. That's kind of what this game focuses on, like Breath of the Wild. I've already had some cool run-ins with some enemies I am way too weak to fight, that I've had these really long standoffs with trying to beat up. And then another concern I have, though, is that the enemy design is going to be way too boring throughout. The variety specifically, just like Breath of the Wild. In the first 4 hours of the game, you probably see every enemy type you're going to face. And I feel that way in this game, too. I don't think there's going to be many enemies that they introduce, because so far in all the areas I've been to, it's been the exact same enemies. So that's a little concerning as well. Another problem I had with Breath of the Wild carried over into this, but I am enjoying the game so far. It's another one of those open world games like Ghost, like Breath of the Wild, where it doesn't litter your map with icons. It's up to you to go out and find things. And I'm really discovering that is the type of open world game I like the most to keep me from getting extremely overwhelmed. And it's weird to get a Ubisoft game that does that, because Ubisoft is known for littering your map with things to do, and this game doesn't do that, and it's very different. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm going to stick with it. And I think it's only like a 30-hour game. It's not an extremely long open world game, so yeah, I should be able to
30 is
beat it
pretty
in the next
decent.
few weeks. Yeah.
30's not short by any means. Is that all you've been playing?
Yes, that is all I've been playing.
Other than
Fall Guys and Monster
Fall
Hunter.
Guys, Monster Hunter.
The stalwarts.
I'll talk about that a little bit. Yep. All right, Kevin. Anything other than Yakuza?
I'll go through some of the other games first before we get into some Yakuza talk, because I know that you've also been playing it.
Yes. We won't rant about it for 20 minutes like we did last week, but we got some.
We'll keep it a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Just played some Overcooked 2 with some friends. The game was really fun, and it is super hectic. I hadn't played it too much before, but I have been having a lot of fun with it when I've been able to get a group of 3 or 4 people together and hop in and play that. So that's been fun. This is one that I forgot to talk about. I think last week I forgot to talk about it. Persona 4, Dancing All Night. I booted that up.
Yeah.
Music's great. Music is great. I did some of the story mode, and it's not that good. Maybe that's just because I haven't actually played Persona 4. And I'm not like attached to the characters. That could be it. But it's like it's nothing to write home. It's visual novel style, which I don't have a problem with. But I don't know. Not a whole lot of substance was happening in that. So, but you can just go in and play the music and you unlock the tracks that way, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters in a rhythm game, is if the music is good and the mechanics are good, and the mechanics in it are good, and Persona music is great. Side note, Persona music is now on Spotify and Apple Music as well. Most Persona soundtracks are on there, as well as like the Catherine soundtracks, I think, are also on there. So
Catherine soundtracks. That's one of my favorite soundtracks in all of gaming.
So if you like that music, you can either play the dancing games or you can listen to them on Spotify or Apple Music. They're all there now. And then the last one before we get into some Yakuza talk, Spiritfarer. I'm still playing through that. It's been a really nice game to have as kind of a side piece to Yakuza. When the grind burns me out or something like that, I can hop over to Spiritfarer and just chill out and have a really chill experience. I've been really liking the progression system of the game because it doesn't really overwhelm you with a bunch of things all at once. It's a very calming game, and in part because it slowly gives you the new characters and the new buildings that you can build, which gives you new mini games to craft more stuff. And it's very gradual, so you don't feel super overwhelmed. At the start, you only have a couple of things to do, and as you're getting further and further in, during the sections where you're sailing between the different islands, you really do have to decide, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to go fishing? Do I want to smelt some ore? Do I want to do some like stuff with my crops? But I have really appreciated that it's been a very gradual process, which really aids in the calming nature of the game. The music's also fantastic, and man, just the art style and animation is so smooth and so pretty. It is a visual marvel. It just as an experience, as a relaxing experience, I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I really like.
Have you ushered any spirits to the spirit world yet?
Yes, I did. My first spirit. The other day?
Were you extremely upset? Did you cry? How sad were you? What happened? Walk me through it.
Walk you through it. I wasn't super broken up about this one, but I can see some of the characters that I've been interacting with since then.
So they just start off with the crappy spirits you don't care about, and then
I don't know. I feel like
attached to.
At the start, the character has their own arc for sure, and they have these little motivations and things, and you're learning about them. But I also felt like with the first character, a lot of it was tutorial, which kind of makes sense. They're teaching you how to do things. They're teaching you how to build certain things or craft things, and it really is kind of a tutorial character. I don't think. I think that the characters that come after the first character are a lot more compelling because they don't have to rely on any sort of the tutorials. They can just have the characters shine on their own. So I'm more excited to see where some of these later characters go, because some of them I haven't gotten to the end of their stories yet, and I'm very interested to see where they're going to go. So I'm almost certain that some of these later characters will have a lot more emotional weight when I do have to send them off. But that first tutorial character, I don't think hit me particularly hard. We'll see.
Sure.
There's still a lot more spirits to go. I have, I think, 4 on my ship now, and I think there's another 5 in the world. So there's still a fair amount.
10 total for the game, you're saying?
Something like that. I'm trying to remember, because they have, you build all their houses, and there's like question marks on there. I think there's 5 left, so it's 9 or 10 spirits.
Gotcha.
So there's still a lot to go, but I'm having a really good time with it. It is a really good game.
Yeah, definitely something I want to hop onto this year.
Get on it when it's on sale again. And then
that was on sale. It was only like $5 off.
It was 20% off. Let's talk about Yakuza. I'll talk about it just for a little bit because I've been playing more Spiritfarer and some of the other games more than Yakuza. Have not beaten that boss yet, but I did beat the Battle Tower, or whatever it's called. I forget.
Yeah.
Battle thing.
30 floors.
30
only.
floors.
I expected it to be bigger.
Yeah, well, so the boss is level 50, and I finished the Battle Tower. My characters are 45. How were you? Because I know that you beat it, right? You beat the boss.
Yeah, I'm officially further than Kevin in Yakuza now, which I saw coming.
Yeah.
But when he was talking about where he was at level-wise, when he first fought the boss, got railed, went into the tower, came out of the tower, we were pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, I first fought the boss at like 35 to 37, got railed, came out of it, went into the battle tower, came out around 42 to 43, around 42, 43, I would say. Went in, was able to beat the boss.
Okay.
I'm now hovering around the level 50 area, going into the end game. Got railed by an entirely new boss. So it's the whole thing is happening again. I'm gonna have to go grind some more. I'm not in a good place. I think I'm a little under leveled. They did introduce another like a dungeon area where you can go and level grind. So when they introduced that, I was like, okay, I'm probably not gonna be able to beat this final section, but I tried it anyways.
Yeah.
It sucks because in the final section, I went all the way through the dungeon, got to the final boss. You know, you defeat him, or you lose to him, and then you can sacrifice your money to replay the fight, or you can go back to the beginning of the dungeon. So now I have to grind and do the whole dungeon again. I can't just go back straight to the boss fight, which is unfortunate because it was a very long dungeon.
In comparison
so I'm not
to
looking forward to that.
That other dungeon that seemingly went on forever, is it longer than that?
No, I'd say they're probably pretty similar.
Pretty similar, okay.
And this one's less horizontal and more vertical, which is also interesting.
Okay.
I like that more.
Yeah, a little bit more interesting than just
But the boss just, the boss has a one-shot that I don't know how to get past, so I'm a little concerned. Because if he chooses, so he has a one-shot move, and he can choose to one-shot any member of your party.
It is guaranteed a one-shot.
If he chooses the main character, yes, he one-shotted the character I had at 1,000 health. And he one-shotted the character I had at 500 health. And he one-shotted the main character, and he one-shotted every character I threw at him.
So,
and if he chooses on a whim to one-shot the main character, you auto-lose. And you have to start over.
That whole system of not being able to let Ichiban faint is ridiculous.
I hate it. I hate it a lot.
Because it was a problem even before you had bosses that could just do a one-shot. Because even then, you could get unlucky and have, 4 or 5 enemies just aggro on him randomly and just take him out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so stupid.
One saving grace for this battle system I have found is that, around where we got stuck the first time, you get an item that does away with random encounters. It just gets rid of every enemy on the streets.
I saw that, yeah. I haven't equipped it yet.
I equipped that immediately. I haven't used it since. That's probably why I'm under-leveled. I hate running into enemies. I've just been doing story fights to get leveled. I thought it'd be enough, but yeah, I was just so sick of random encounters. They were everywhere. So, and the nice thing about it is it is an item equipped, so you have to take something off of one of your party members, but you can put it on a party member that's not even in your main party, and it still counts.
Okay, that's nice.
So I just threw it on some guy on the sidelines, and I was still good to go.
Okay,
that's something I found that I really like that they throw in decently near the end game. If you are, I guess they assumed you'd be getting sick of all those random encounters. They do throw them at you constantly.
They do.
But I'm still loving it. I am on the final chapter. The story is amazing. They introduce a new area to explore near the end, so that's fun. Constantly, just so much is going on all the time. You have to really pick and choose the times you want to go off and play mini games or do side stories. I'm near the 40. I just passed 40 sub stories. I don't know where any other sub stories are. They haven't shown up yet. There's 52 in the game, so I don't know at what point in the game they become, or if I just missed them.
Missing 10 or 12. Well,
yeah.
At the end, when you beat the boss, I'm sure that you can go back and do the other ones.
Yes. Usually how these Yakuza game works is you do get free reign of the map after you beat the game, which is nice. To complete.
Have you done any of the cart stuff?
Yes, I did do some of the cart stuff. I've done half of it.
Some of the side things are tied to that, so that could be.
I found out there was a few side missions. Yeah, so whenever you beat a cup, you get a side mission based on the characters that you beat. I like Dragon Kart. Yeah, it's not as intuitive as Mario Kart, but it's still decently fun.
Yeah,
for what it is.
Yeah, good game.
But
the more that I play it, the more I'm excited for what they can do with the sequel.
Exactly, this is a good starting point.
It just has some weird problems with the RPG system that get annoying that I think wouldn't be that
easy
hard
fixes,
to iron out. There aren't
sure.
Yeah, they're simple fixes I think they could make to this game for the sequel. And that's what I'm really
And I was about. I was talking to Logan. I was like, this might be a good hopping place for the series if you don't want to do all the other. I was wrong. At the end of the game, they just throw in a bunch of Yakuza stuff in you from the previous games.
Of course.
You should probably play them first. I didn't expect them to throw so much at you, but it's whatever. It's nice to see if you're a veteran of this series.
Of course.
To see all these callbacks because they're very far far and few between for like the majority of the game, and then they just all come at you one after one after one. So that's nice to see, but I'm having a good time. I hope I can beat it. There's got to be some secret to this guy's one-shot move that I don't know. I hate blocking. I never do it. Maybe I have to block the move. But it's hard to block and then get off decent combos when you're not doing enough damage to take this guy out.
Yeah.
So I'll figure it out. I'm going to
luck.
do a little bit grinding, get back to it. Hopefully have it beat by next week so I can start something new. Logan and I just got Divinity Original Sin 2. We're hoping to have that started after we beat Monster Hunter World. We're at the finish line. Logan's got like 10 more MRs to get master ranks just so we can do the final mission. And then we're done with that game forever. We can move on with our lives.
Move on.
But that is all we've been playing for this week. Moving on, Kevin, what do we have for our O2 segment?
Yeah, so we're wrapping up the final housekeeping of 2020 before we get into 2021. And before we get into predictions, we were talking about that earlier. We'll get into 2020 predictions as that we made last year, review those, and talk about our 2021 predictions. But before we do that, one other last look at 2020. Our biggest surprises and disappointments for the big three. We've got Sony, we've got Nintendo, and we've got Microsoft. And we've picked one surprise and one disappointment for each company. We're going to start with Sony. Who wants to start? Logan, you want to start? I feel like you were kind of quiet over there because we were just been talking about Yakuza for so long. What do you got for Sony?
My biggest disappointment. Are we doing both disappointment and surprise right now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
For Sony.
My biggest disappointment for Sony. They had a heck of a year. I think that you could point to the stock of the PS5 as an issue. But I luckily managed to get one, so I didn't want to pick that. I want to leave that if one of you guys wanted to do that. So I am very disappointed. I do not have my PlayStation 5 VR adapter yet. My goodness. If you remember, if you listen to last week's episode, we were going to do biggest surprises and disappointments a week ago. And this was my pick, and I'm like, I might have to change it because I'll probably have it by next week's show because it shipped like 3 weeks ago now. I still don't have it. It is still not arrived. I think it's kind of annoying that I need an adapter. Like, why couldn't that port just be on the PS5? So that's my biggest disappointment with Sony is that I sent out for this PS5 PSVR adapter in early September, I think it was, and I still don't have it. Almost
before you even got the console.
Yeah,
well before.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So that's my biggest disappointment. And then my biggest surprise is just how good the exclusive lineup was. And I feel like we've been really spoiled the last few years with incredible PS4 exclusives. You look at 2018 that had the 1-2 punch everyone likes to look at of Spider-Man and God of War. And then just years prior to that, Uncharted 4 is amazing. There's just so many amazing PS4 exclusives. And then for this swan song year for the PlayStation 4 to have Final Fantasy VII Remake, Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima in the span of 3 months. Like, those were 3 of our favorite games of the year, and they came out back to back to back and are just such memorable games. And that wasn't it for PS4 exclusives. Dreams came out in February. You had MLB The Show, which always comes out. And then you had a handful of other things, especially this fall, like with Sackboy and Spider-Man, which came out on PS5 as well. But it was just a killer year for PS4 exclusives to send that console out with a bang. And I expected to really love The Last of Us Part 2, and then Ghost really surprised me with how much I loved it. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'd say I even liked more than I expected to. So those 3 games really blew me away, and just the exclusive lineup they rolled out in a year where they were also focusing on pushing a new console out the door, I thought it was incredible.
I think,
absolutely.
It's just indicative of the type of generation that Sony's had, being able to pump out masterful exclusives basically every year, besides probably the launch year of the PS4. Beyond that, they have just been killing it every year. And it is surprising that they were able to do it in a year where they launched a new console.
Yeah.
Zach, what do you got?
Absolutely. All right. Sony, my favorite company of all time. Can't let me down. I have no disappointments. Not a single thing they did. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think that's true.
The clear disappointment of the year for me Didn't affect me directly, but it was really sad to see was the launch issues for the PS5. The PS5 was a long time coming. People were super excited about it. It is, Logan, you experienced how hard it was to get a console firsthand.
It was very hard.
The pre-order issues, stores not losing stock immediately, these things going up for 10 seconds.
And arguably, it was better back then when Logan was trying to get a console. It's better
Those
than
were
after
the
launch.
golden days.
It was the
launch.
golden day. It was 24 hours
Yes.
of a shot
The
to get
one
this
day.
thing. Yeah.
And somehow you managed to do it, but a lot of people are still, out of luck. They haven't gotten their console yet, and so, hopefully a lot of people have been able to lock one down in one way or another. But even now, the launch is letting us down with the ability to get this. And I'm glad that I was pushing it off for a little while because I would not have wanted to go through the hassles of getting this console. I'm definitely waiting until it's much more ease of access, which will be good, but I don't even know how long it's going to be. This could go on for a little while longer before these things become, but now that they're devoting more resources to it, hopefully, that's our theory. But that was just really sad to see that so many people were struggling to get their new consoles when this thing was built so hyped up and just
so highly anticipated.
These major console releases are such a big event that it being marred by these difficult to obtain. It's just all memes at that point. There's no happiness. It's just sad memes. But that'll be my biggest disappointment for Sony.
Also disappointing with the retailers and how long it's taken them, and still how they're working to try and stop the scalpers buying up thousands of PS5s and Xbox Series X's as well. They really need to get a handle on that because I feel like that has been a big part of why it's been so bad. Sony for sure. Obviously they couldn't.
Absolutely.
They probably couldn't manufacture as many as they would like, and even then it probably would have been kind of hard to get it. But I think a lot of the blame also has to be shouldered by retailers not being able to figure out how to stop scalpers from buying up thousands of these things.
Just you think
and how it started with the retailers too, because you had Walmart basically saying, like, Sony says pre-orders are starting tomorrow, and Walmart's like, psych, they're up now, and they were sold out. They were sold out basically by the time they were supposed to go up initially. So if people were asleep and set their alarms to wake up early, they woke up and were surprised that they were already gone. So I think that's really disappointing, is that even people who wanted to prepare to set aside $500 to wake up early, to log on the internet and get one of these things couldn't, because retailers dropped the ball and threw it up early. And then after Walmart did, the floodgates opened, everyone posted it instantly. So it was just a mess. And then Microsoft promising they'd do better, and then it was just as bad. Yeah.
Of course.
Awesome. Well, that's my big disappointment of Sony for the year. Glaring issue on the release of the PS5. But on a brighter note, my big surprise for Sony this year is a game that Logan and I played. I'm not sure why it exists, but it does. One of my favorite movies, Bill Murray's 1980s movie, Groundhog Day, got a video game PlayStation VR sequel called Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son. Logan and I played this back in February after being astonished that it even existed in the first place. Had an amazing time. I love the PlayStation VR. Good use of the mechanics where I got to dance, do the Ryerson shuffle. We got to chop some wood. We just lived the same day over and over again. It's just nice to have a canonical
I was a
sequel to an
bartender
80s movie in the form of a PlayStation VR game. And this game caught me off guard. I didn't see it coming, but boy, has it lived up to the hype. It is amazing.
We talk about it so much.
We talk it all the time.
You're probably the only two people on the planet that have talked about this game at all.
I want to know what the sales numbers on this game were.
Hopefully
it was more than one copy.
More or less than Crayola Scoot.
Crayola Scoot.
Less because it's on VR, and Crayola Scoot's on all major platforms.
Yeah, but is it more because Crayola Scoot has sold like 10 copies?
Yeah, that thing was on sale for like $1 a couple
That's
weeks
true.
ago.
Maybe it's sold more because it sells for no money.
Yeah.
What a game.
So I think that was a bit of a surprise, lighter moment in the Sony year for me. Hopefully we get more 80s movie sequel PSVR games in the future to continue on that streak. But that's what I got for Sony so far.
So what's the next pick after Groundhog Day? What is the next movie that is deserving of a PSVR sequel.
I want a Princess Bride video game sequel about Buttercup and Wesley's child.
Wow.
A fantasy themed video game. That'd be pretty cool, I think.
I don't think
pitch it to the studio that made Groundhog
Montoya
Day.
is his mentor. He's a swordsman. You can use be a sword fighter on the VR. It'd be great.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, they could come back and do voice acting.
Looking forward to hearing your predictions for 2021. I'm assuming that's
that. I am absolutely not predicting that.
All right.
If it happens, I will be astonished.
As for me, for my disappointment, a lot of this kind of rests on the situation with Yakuza, but in general, the backwards compatibility and save transfer situation surrounding the PS4 and PS5. For the PS5, I was just disappointed that backwards compatibility was limited to PS4. Part of that was just because we had a lot of rumors going around for a while before it was confirmed that it was only PS4, that we were going to get more of a full-on like PlayStation library backwards compatibility, and seeing Microsoft with the Xbox just pushing gung-ho to try and make everything that has ever come to an Xbox platform playable on Series X or Series S. I was just disappointed that Sony wasn't also taking that same direction. And then the save transfer situation just is so bizarre to me. And the fact that you basically have to look up like a wiki and an FAQ for some of these games to try and figure out what version transfers to the next version, what version doesn't, seeing that some games like Yakuza, Like a Dragon, can translate from the Xbox One version to the Series X version, and you can have your save transfer fine, but then you go to PlayStation and it's like, yeah, you get an upgrade version, but your save doesn't transfer. So stuff like that, and the just not knowing with each game what the situation is, which game supports what thing, what has a upgrade version, what game has save transfer, what doesn't, was really irksome to me, especially as someone who's playing Yakuza Like a Dragon and has put in over 50 hours and knowing that my save is just stuck on the PS4, whereas if I was an Xbox owner, it would be able to transfer just fine, is a little annoying to me.
Yeah.
So that is my disappointment. As for my surprise, how much I like the DualSense. I don't know. With new consoles, I guess maybe the Wii would probably be the closest to like, oh wow, this controller is like crazy cool. Most of the time it's just like, yeah, here's the new controller. Maybe it feels a bit more solid than the last one. Maybe it has a new button here or there, some extra little thing that's on there that like the
maybe
PS3,
it has a giant screen in the middle.
A giant screen. Well, I would consider that more to the Joy-Cons being the actual controller rather than the hand.
I'm talking about the Wii U, bro.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, the Wii U was disgusting. But like, for example, the PS3 to the PS4, you get a little touchpad thing and some other extra little features, and it feels more robust.
And much more solid.
Yeah, it doesn't break by touching it. But
yes.
But the DualSense, just the features that it provides really caught me off guard with how much I actually like them. The haptic feedback with the triggers was, just from playing Astro's Playroom, was super well done. I was like, wow, with these changes, I'm really excited to see what developers can do. With a lot of the changes in the past, like the touchpad, I'm like, dear God, what are they going to do with this? Like what beyond a menu, I don't want them to use this. But with the features that have been added with the DualSense, with the updated rumble and with the haptic feedback, I'm actually excited to see what developers are able to do, because Astro's Playroom already blew me away with its usage of those for like the rocket sections, using the triggers, just the vibrations when you're walking through an area. And not only am I surprised by it, I'm just really looking forward to seeing in a few years' time what some of these newer games are able to do and take advantage of with the DualSense's capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good controller.
Yeah, I still need to experience it. I'm the only one who hasn't.
It's really good.
Yeah, you do.
Whenever you get that PS5, whenever it's available,
I'll just buy the controller.
You can do that.
And two generations removed from the worst video game controller of all time to what the DualSense is now, I think Sony's done pretty well.
Just looking back on how bad that controller was for the PS3.
I hate it so much.
I was literally like fondling mine earlier today, just being like, this is so flimsy. Yeah, I didn't even want to look at it the wrong way.
The handles that go like 80 degrees down, and they're terrible.
The thing just feels hollow. Like there's like nothing in there. It's weird.
There's one small graphics card in there with all the data on it, and the rest is just hollow, like a brittle bird's bone. It is hard to hold.
Yeah, they've updated it quite well. The PS4 was a really good jump from the PS3, and the DualSense has been a great jump from the DualShock 4. All right, let's move on to Nintendo. Logan, what you got for surprise and disappointment for Nintendo?
My biggest disappointment with Nintendo was, I mean, I think there's a caveat with this because it was a really unprecedented year with pandemic and all, but just the way Nintendo communicated with us this year was even more frustrating than how they usually communicate with us, which is still frustrating. Like the partner directs were their big way of showing off games in the second half of the year, and there were a couple good ones at the end, but for the most part those were pretty big misses, I think, for most people who watched them. There hasn't been a major mainline full-length Nintendo Direct since 2019. One didn't happen last year. And so we got these piecemeal announcements. Paper Mario was announced on Twitter. There was a random drop for Age of Calamity. Just one morning you woke up and it was there. And these surprise announcements are cool, but I think myself and a lot of people miss the expectation of 3 to 4 major Nintendo Directs each year. And the last couple of years, they've been slowing down, but we always had E3 where we'd get a huge, long presentation like that. But there was no E3 this year, and Nintendo didn't really do anything to replace that big E3 presentation. So it almost just kind of felt like they were missing in a lot of ways this year, because Xbox and Sony both had big events for their new consoles, and Nintendo just had these sprinklings of small events. The biggest one was probably the big Mario Direct, which was like 12 minutes of stuff for Mario's 35th anniversary. But I was just kind of disappointed with how they announced stuff this year in relation to prior years, because I feel like when you have a big Direct with 3 to 4 major first-party titles, a few third-party surprises, and some indie stuff sprinkled in, I feel like it makes a huge impression compared to sprinkling those announcements over the course of 6 to 8 months. And going into this year, I'd like to see them return to the Direct format in some way, and package their major announcements together more than just random Twitter drops on a Tuesday morning, things like that.
Yeah, I think this year will probably be pretty telling of what they're going to be doing moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we haven't gotten back to normal yet. We're still a ways from that, but I feel like even then, they're a little bit more adapted to working from home and the things that have to go into a situation like this. And if they don't go back to a full Nintendo Direct type format this year, then I feel like it's probably retired.
Yeah.
And they've really struggled with that format, especially since Iwata passed away. He was really the figurehead
of those Directs. And then post 2015, they've been fewer and far between. They eventually got some new people who were kind of fronting these things, but they were never as common, and now they never happen anymore. But I miss them. Like a Nintendo Direct, when they announced it a day before, it is exciting. Looking forward to that. Most people get too hyped about it, but if you can keep your expectations in check, like knowing you're probably going to get a big Smash reveal at the end, some news on first-party games, and probably one big surprise, like they're fun. And like that was one of the best parts about the Wii U era was those Nintendo Directs. Some of them were just awful. Like some of them, they just had nothing going on. But when a Nintendo Direct hits, like it's one of the number one trending things on social media. And I think that it would do them well to get back to that.
Yeah. I don't
like a Zelda 35th anniversary Direct.
Probably going to get that. I'm assuming we'll get that.
So.
With a combo pack of some previously
available
released
now
Zelda games.
for 2 weeks.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. No rush.
And then my biggest Nintendo surprise, speaking of Zelda, was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Like I said, I woke up one morning and bam, it was just there.
Out of nowhere. A prequel to Breath of the Wild, a sequel to Hyrule Warriors. It was my second favorite game of 2020. I adored the gameplay and music and presentation. Liked the story. It was just a great surprise. And that is one benefit to the shorter cycle, is usually with Nintendo or games in general, you're looking forward to these games for sometimes years. But Age of Calamity was like, hey, it'll be out in 2 months. Like, get excited, pre-order it. You'll have it in less than 60 days. And that was just super cool. And Paper Mario was the same short turnaround too. So that stuff can be cool. And yeah, I never expected Nintendo to be that liberal with the Breath of the Wild brand, but they did it, and it was awesome. And I hope they do more spin-offs in that universe also, because the last couple of Zelda spin-offs have been really great.
Yeah, just expand on the story and expand on the world. I think that they could do a lot more than what they would do normally just by the mainline entries. I think they could flesh it out a lot more with games like these, like Age of Calamity.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Zach.
It's a good time.
Zach, what you got? Nintendo.
So for Nintendo, my big disappointment of the year is actually a delay for No More Heroes 3, a game that Logan and I were both looking forward to after having played the first and second ones at the beginning of the year. It's actually kind of funny. Shortly before the show, I was listening to our prediction show from last year. Logan's big Nintendo prediction wasn't this, but he said that there would be a No More Heroes 3 delay and a combo pack for the first 2 games on Switch. So I thought that was pretty cool. He nailed that one right on the head. That was at the end of January. I feel like that was before we even played the games. So I thought we played them in February.
I think so. Yeah, probably.
But that was a good prediction on your part.
Thanks.
I was very
I forgot
upset.
I made that.
Yeah, no, he caught me off
That's
guard. I
clutch.
had to listen back. I was like, yeah, he got that right. He got that exact. So that delay was a little bit upsetting. This game, we've got trailers for it. You know, it seems like it's pretty far in development. But you know, I guess they need a little more time. Probably, almost certainly coming out in 2021. I assume. I'd be very
shocked
surprised if it didn't.
Yeah.
Be a little
hopefully-
disconcerting if it didn't.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get a chance to play that fairly soon on Switch. But yeah, for 2020 specifically, that was a little sad since at the beginning of the year we had played the first 2. So we have had to wait after that. And we tried Travis Strikes Again. Not good. Not a great game.
No.
Not worth it. And then moving on to my big surprise for Nintendo, probably not a surprising surprise for you listeners out there, but during a recent partner showcase, I believe it was, they made an announcement for a new Monster Hunter game exclusive to Switch, Monster Hunter Rise. A series. Whoa, no one saw it coming.
Whoa.
It wasn't the fact that they announced a Monster Hunter specifically that surprised me, but how cool I thought this game was, the aesthetic, going back to the old world, all the new monsters, all the new tricks, the wire bug system. It was all just a nice package of. I kind of expected the worst. I didn't know if they were gonna lean heavily into more of a world type Monster Hunter or go back to more traditional, because Logan and I hopped in pretty late into the series. We started with World, so if they had went back to the more less user-friendly type of system that is in previous Monster Hunter games, it'd be tough for us. So the fact that this is a lot more user-friendly and uses a lot more newer systems, we're very excited for this game. So I think that I would qualify it as one of the biggest surprises of 2020 coming out of Nintendo. It was a great surprise to wake up to, because I was not awake for the partner showcase.
God.
I woke up to all this news.
Of course, we didn't get we didn't get your reaction. Unfortunately.
Nope. And then that was the week I was gone, so I couldn't even talk about it.
Bad timing. Really bad timing.
Which was a very big disappointment, but overall, I'm still very excited, and if it gets delayed to 2022, I will be devastated.
Wow. That'd be crazy.
Past 8 months
We
delay.
need more time. Here's a year delay. Yikes.
Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Doubtful,
my disappointment for Nintendo was just the Super Mario 3D All-Stars package and the timed releases, not only for this but also for the Fire Emblem re-release that is also getting delisted on the same day. I really don't like that business practice that is.
And Mario 35.
And Mario 35, but I don't really care about that one because I played it for like 5 minutes and was like, whatever. But yeah, just the timed releases in general really irk me. Sure, if you know that it's out and you can get a hold of a copy, fine, that's good. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that either can't pick it up now or will hop into the Switch later and either won't be able to pick up these games or pick them up at inflated prices, either the physical copy or if they do decide to release it on the eShop separately. But it is kind of just a slap in the face to a certain group of people that just aren't able to pick it up right now. And I really hope that they're not going to be doing more of this. But now that we have these other anniversaries coming up, Zelda is here for its 35th. I'm not really holding out hope that they're not going to do it again, because I think that they saw that it worked and they can justify it because it's an anniversary. That's what they did with this last one. They're like, well, it was an anniversary and we wanted to make it special and celebrate it. And I feel like they're going to use the exact same reasoning for whatever they decide to do for Zelda, whether that be re-releases again of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, that combo pack, or if they do something else with the re-release, Skyward Sword maybe. I feel like they could do the same thing again, just under the guise of, a special celebration, because they did it last time.
I thought about this one a lot more. I don't have an issue with I no longer have an issue with the limited physical run, like, hey, anniversary physical run limited, but what really bothers me is the delisting of the digital version. I think that if you do want to celebrate
that anniversary with a limited physical run, like, it's not great, but I think it's fine.
But I think just removing the digital titles from the eShop is what I really don't like, because they've done the limited physical release before for Mario's 25th anniversary. They did that Wii run, right? And I actually just pulled it up on eBay because Kev mentioned inflated prices, and I actually don't think that's too big of a concern, because you can pick up the Wii version of Super Mario All-Stars for around $30.
Well, that was they did a re-release of that. That was they did a Nintendo Selects version. I believe that before the Selects version came out, it was going for $80-$90.
Okay.
So
because I guess that
Selects version also brought down the original, because I'm looking at the original run for around 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's not great. I wish the digital option was still a thing, because then I really wouldn't have an issue with it. But just removing something from the eShop's not great.
They don't have to manufacture anything; it's just on there, and they just are pulling it because they know that they're going to get more sales. So that was a disappointment, and also just in general, the 3D All Stars, the games are great, but it was disappointing how little they changed these things. That Mario 64 doesn't look as good as it could have. That they didn't kind of shore up some of the weird little issues that it has for being one of the first 3D platformers. The camera and some of Mario's controls are a little wonk. No extra features beyond the soundtracks. You'd think that for this big celebration that they wanted to do, that they would try and go a little bit more all out with the collection, but it's pretty bare bones. The games are still fantastic games. I just wish that they did more with the actual package, and that it wasn't getting delisted.
Yep.
All right.
And don't forget to buy
Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury coming out in February, because it is one of the best 3D Mario games, and it's not limited. So
unlimited.
Yeah, pick it up at your leisure.
Get on it whenever.
Yeah.
And then my surprise, just how many copies New Horizons sold. I was not expecting it to. We were just talked about it earlier on in the show, that it was number 1 on Amazon for the physical version and number 5 digitally. The thing's been breaking records basically every day. Every quarter they come out with sales numbers, it just keeps going up. It's probably going to pass Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which already sells insanely well. I just never thought in a million years that an Animal Crossing game would do this well. I knew it had a large group of fans, both casual and more hardcore, but it surpassed my expectations of how much this thing was going to sell.
Yeah, it's just an unbelievable success story.
Just keep selling.
Absolutely.
Keep selling. All right, our number 1 company, of course, save the best for last. Let's get into Microsoft. Biggest disappointment, Logan, for Microsoft.
My biggest disappointment
was the Halo delay. I was excited for this game. I thought it was a huge juggernaut to launch an Xbox console with. First time they were going to launch
Halo with the Xbox since the original Xbox and the original Halo, and it just didn't happen. And now we're looking at the end of this year for when people are going to be playing Halo Infinite. And I was actually on the fence about maybe getting an Xbox or an Xbox One to play Halo Infinite last year, and it just didn't happen. So I hope that this game is amazing when it comes out. I think it needs to be for the future of Halo to be going in a good direction, especially since this is going to be a platform for Halo for what we're hearing could be the next decade.
Please
they can't mess it up if that's really what they're looking at. So I'm still excited for this game, but the delay, I think it hurt a little bit, and a year is a long time, but I think a month later from when it was supposed to come out, we saw with Cyberpunk that they made the right call to delay Halo, because better to delay it a year like Cyberpunk should have than what happened with Cyberpunk on current gen consoles. This last month.
I think the disappointment would linger a lot longer if it came out and was a broken mess, rather than if they delay it once and then have to delay it again for basically a whole year. But remains to be seen if it's going to be a good game when it comes out. But if it does turn out to be a solid game, I think it won't hurt near as much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then my biggest surprise is probably the biggest bombshell story of the year, the Bethesda acquisition from Microsoft. That is just enormous.
Huge.
I'm not personally invested because I don't play too many Bethesda games or other games that they publish under ZeniMax Media, but it's just an enormous deal, and it's going to have ripple effects throughout this entire generation because it's going to be a question now, where do these games go? And that is just, a $4 billion acquisition from Microsoft. They are not messing around when it comes to getting new stuff under their first-party umbrella. So that was just a crazy, unexpected move to see last year.
Yeah, I'm going to be really curious how they're going to go about it. I'm sure that the big titles are going to be multi-platform, whether or not they come to Xbox first or extra content. But for some of these smaller titles, I am curious if they are going to just make a lot of them Xbox exclusives for the ones that they may not think rile up as many people, like a Fallout or an Elder Scrolls going Xbox exclusive. You're kind of going to have to wait and see on some of these.
Like if Dishonored 3 was an Xbox exclusive.
That's what I'm saying. Arcane Studios under ZeniMax Media. Does it have enough to warrant a multi-console release? I would hope so. But if I have to play Dishonored 3 on an Xbox, I'm going to do it.
I saw a headline that said that the
Dishonored creator is working on another game for Arcane that is not Deathloop. So
maybe it is
Harvey
Dishonored
Smith,
in the works.
I think. Is that Harvey
I think
Smith?
so.
Yeah. Cool guy. I love his work. So whatever he makes, I'm definitely interested in checking out.
All right.
Is it my turn?
Zach, Microsoft.
All right. Yes, Microsoft. Logan stole my disappointment. It was also the Halo Infinite delay. I think this really tanked the console launch. This was their big exclusive coming into it. They didn't have a whole lot other than that. So it was a little sad to see. Really sad for Halo fans. The only shining light is that hopefully this game is going to be better now that it has a whole lot more time to actually, iron out those bugs and those graphics that people were complaining about. But yeah, one of the games that, makes me lean towards Xbox is the Halo series. So it is sad to see that this got pushed out so far, but in the future, if it's good, who knows? Just a little bit of a disappointment. And then my biggest surprise for Microsoft this year was actually the announcement of Fable 4, a franchise that I have been a devoted fan of for a very long time since I played Fable The Lost Chapters on PC when I was a child. And then it got a little iffy with Fable 2 and 3, with Fable 2 being a Xbox exclusive, and then Fable 3 being on Xbox and PC, and then it got a little jumbled. But I love the first one so much that I stuck with the series, whether it be playing the games or just watching the games online. Just really love the lore of the franchise. And there has been a Fable 4 hinted at for a while. Playground Games, we knew they were working on something. It was rumored to be a Fable. It was finally good to actually get the announcement that Fable 4 is happening. We know very little. So hopefully we get more soon, but we did get a bit of a teaser trailer along with the announcement. So that was just really nice to see, because if there is one series that will force me to get an Xbox, it might be Fable 4, depending on how good this game is. I wouldn't buy an Xbox before it came out and then it's garbage and then I regret it. I'd wait to see if it was good and then I'd buy the Xbox.
Especially with Fable, with the way the series has been.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's nice to see Microsoft pulling out IPs that are actually getting people excited. Because, man, I feel like there was not a whole lot of that in the Xbox One generation. Like you had the stalwarts, you had Halo, you had Gears, you had Forza. People were waiting for Crackdown for a while, and that turned out to be crap. And then
Crapdown?
Yeah, Crapdown.
I was going to say it, and I chose not to.
But really, they didn't have a whole lot in the way of just of exclusives that got people excited. And I feel like now that they've got these new studios and that they're kind of going back to the well of previous IPs, I think they've been doing a good job of getting people excited again for Xbox games.
Absolutely. Make a new Voodoo Vince.
We both talked about potentially getting an Xbox at some point. Both Zach and I just did. So, and I never even really considered getting an Xbox One. So that's already a big improvement.
I want the all digital edition.
Yeah,
I don't need a physical.
Don't need physical for that.
It's cheaper.
Yeah,
it's
so
a
you
good
have to
price.
buy Divinity Original Sin 2 for $60 instead of $20.
Yep.
That is, we were talking about that. Like, That is the one scenario where the digital is full price and the physical copy is like a third of the price.
Happens, man. All right. For me, the biggest
Halo Infinite
disappointment.
delay.
No. So this one is a little bit of a joke, but kind of not. For Perfect Dark fans, awesome that the series is coming back. Hopefully it's better than Perfect Dark Zero, because that game I've heard is no bueno. But Perfect Dark fans, awesome. I'm just disappointed that they didn't bring back Viva Pinata as the rare IP to bring back. They picked Perfect Dark over Viva Pinata. That's a selfish pick on my part for sure. But I can dream. I can hope that
the world's
Viva Pinata
biggest
comes back.
Viva Pinata fan.
Yeah, I want it back, and that they picked Perfect Dark instead hurts me a little bit, especially because Microsoft, we joke about it that the console has so many like shooters. You got Halo, you got Gears, and now they're picking Perfect Dark as the series to bring back.
Yeah.
Again, great for fans of Perfect Dark, but I just want a new Viva Pinata. Come on, Rare or whoever else would pick that up. I want to see that come back.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then
hope Fable is a shooter.
we are no, it's going to be a racing game. Come on, it's Playground Games.
Oh yeah,
it's just the
yeah,
next
obviously.
Forza.
Sorry. Yep.
But
I hope it's a
very
kart racing
British.
game. Oh god.
And then my biggest surprise was the Xbox Series S price. $300 for a brand new console. Obviously, it doesn't have the same specs as the Series X, but man, for people who aren't super picky about how the games run and look, but you still get 60 FPS, 1080p is the Series S. A $300 entry price for a brand new console is fantastic. Especially when the other consoles on the market are either $500 for the Series X, or even if you're going for the cheaper PS5 model, that's still $400. So
they were able to match the Switch with a new Xbox, I thought was a big deal.
Yeah, and I feel like not only did it get some people to pick it up that weren't thinking about it, but it also got a lot of people to consider it that would not have even thought about it beforehand. We're an example of that. I feel like there's a lot of other people that weren't going to spend $500 on an Xbox, but saw a $300 version, like, okay, maybe I'll hop into that ecosystem sometime soon. And
it's just a shame it wasn't more widely available, because that could have been a insanely hot seller during the holidays if it had been around on shelves. But the digital versions of both consoles were even more impossible to find than the top tier ones. Like, most stores reported they had like 10 to 20% of the stock of the digital versions compared to the main versions. Like, like for Sony, I get it. It's not that big of a difference. But for Xbox, they should have been pushing the Series S as a huge entry-level option for a lot of people.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my biggest surprise from Microsoft. All right. We've been going on that long enough. Let's get into these predictions. We're going to go through the 2020 predictions pretty quickly, just what they were and if they came true or not. I guess I'll run through mine really quickly here. Bravely Default 2 will be delayed to 2021. That happened.
Nice job.
There we go.
Oh, let's go.
Speaking of Halo Infinite, besides Halo Infinite, Microsoft will have no compelling exclusives in 2020. I got part of that right. They didn't have any other compelling exclusives.
Hey, I'm
also
going to disagree with
Halo.
you. I'm going to disagree. People loved Microsoft Flight Simulator, which came from them.
Okay. Is that on Series X?
All right.
No, but it's a Microsoft exclusive, I guess.
All right. Caveat.
And Ori was exclusive for a while, and it was great.
That is what you brought up in the
I thought so.
2020 prediction. So you're like, what about Ori? And Kevin
Yeah,
was like, well, that's got to be on other consoles.
It ended up coming to Switch last year, which I didn't think it would come to so quickly.
Yeah, that was.
Kevin saw that one coming. We'll give him that one.
I saw that.
Good job, Kevin.
Yeah. And then my last prediction: the PS5 will cost $500 at launch, and for the normal PS5, that is true.
Boom.
Yeah.
Nice.
Those are my 2020 predictions. Logan, what you got for your 2020 predictions?
I have that the Series X will be $600, but I also predicted there would be a lower budget. I predicted
That the name would be Series S, so I was happy with that. I predicted it would be $400.
You got the $200 difference.
Half a point.
Yeah, so that's not bad. I said that PS5 reveal event, Sony Bend will be working on a new Uncharted. That did not happen.
Nope.
And then I said Paper Mario would come back.
Hey,
yes,
and it did. And then I also said that Breath of the Wild would be announced for November 2020 and be delayed to 2021 and would be replaced by a Twilight Princess Wind Waker double pack, which was a very in-depth prediction. And I have a feeling
could have happened.
I have a feeling that it was supposed to come out in November and was instead replaced by Hyrule Warriors. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, we'll never know for sure. But I did get the Paper Mario part right, so not bad. Series S was a big win. Paper Mario was a big win, and apparently I predicted No More Heroes 1 and 2 would be on Switch.
No points for that.
We're doing pretty good
Zach.
so far. Zach, don't ruin this. What do you got?
No, Zach did good. All right, I'll save the one I didn't get right for last. Last of Us 2 delay, final delay from May. I said either a month or two to either June or July. Got that right exactly. Because a very similar thing happened to Uncharted 4 right at the end. So I assumed that they hadn't learned their lesson. For Microsoft, I had Xbox Series X coming in around $500. Got that one right. Well, I said $499, but you know how it goes. And for Nintendo, I said they would announce a new F-Zero, which did not happen. I was very.
But I did fall in love with F-Zero.
Yeah, so a new F-Zero love as opposed to an announcement. So I'll give myself half a point. So that's 2.5 points right there.
We did well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did really well.
Yeah.
Overall,
each of us got at least 2 right,
solid.
and then a caveat for the third one. All right.
A little bit.
Let's disappoint everybody with our 2021 predictions.
Yes.
My first 2021 prediction, the biggest game of 2021 is getting delayed to 2022. That, of course, is Biomutant. Thing was supposed to come out in 2019, I think. Didn't come out in 2020 either. And I'm calling it. I don't think it's coming out in 2021. I'm calling 2022.
No, sir.
It's kind of a joke pick, but also I kind of think it's a possibility. We still haven't heard anything for months from that thing. But you can go get the collector's edition. Still available on Amazon. That is my first 2021 prediction. Logan.
My first 2021 prediction, I have a prediction for Nintendo. I think this is the year we see a new WarioWare game. It has been a few years since WarioWare Gold. It came out in 2017 when the Switch was already out. So 4 years in between entries seems about right for that franchise. There hasn't been another. Game & Wario was before that. And then before that, I think it was WarioWare DIY on DS. So about 4 years for each Wario game. And I think that's a really good kind of lighter Nintendo first-party entry to come out in the middle of the year. And I think WarioWare on Switch could be awesome with the Joy-Con, with the touchscreen, like maybe in handheld mode. Like, I think there's a lot of cool things with that technology. So I think it's time for a WarioWare game.
Okay. WarioWare coming back. Zach, your first pick. Prediction.
Does it matter which one I do?
Do whatever.
Nope. All right. Then I'll do my Microsoft prediction, which is, speaking of Fable 4, I'm slotting it for a end of year 2021 release date. That's like November, December-ish. I'm expecting it to come out around then. I want it to be out this year. I really do. And I think it could happen, but I don't think it's going to come out much sooner than the end of the year. So let's hope that happens.
Yeah, we haven't seen much on that, but
there's
a chance.
Just the announcement.
There's a chance.
I don't know, because Halo's going to be the big fall game, so I don't.
Nah, no one cares. No one cares about Halo.
We'll see.
It's all Fable.
Yep.
All right. My second prediction. So we know that not only do we have the Zelda anniversary, we've also got our boy Sonic. He's got his anniversary. Sega really dropped the ball with their announcements last year. That didn't work.
We were also talking about that on our last year's show.
Oh man,
that's a throwback. Dear God.
Yeah.
What a simpler time when we thought something was going to happen there.
Yeah.
I'm calling Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remakes this summer.
That would be so good.
Remakes. Oh.
Because I feel like it'd be cool if they have these remakes in the summer and then have like the next big Sonic game be like the winter title or something like that. With
Next
Sonic Team
Sonic
and their
game.
inability to make a fully fledged Sonic game in a number of years, in like a 4 or 5 year span, they can't make a fully fledged Sonic game. I don't know if that'll work, but that's what I'm hoping for. That to celebrate the anniversary, they had this planned out in advance, that we get Adventure 1 and 2 remake in the summer with the next mainline Sonic game in the winter of 2021, or even maybe in the early parts of 2022.
I gotta think we're coming up on a Sonic Mania too.
That too,
at some
yeah.
point. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Sonic Team is working on the Adventure remakes, and those are the fall game, and Mania 2 could be a summer thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it worked out that way too.
That could be
I
possible.
wouldn't be opposed.
Come on, Sonic. It's got to be a big year for our
We
boy.
want
Yeah.
something. 2021 is the year of Sonic.
Better be.
Absolutely.
All right, Logan.
My next prediction, I'm keeping an old prediction. I think we're going to see a new Uncharted this year. I think the franchise is
Studio
too...
Bend.
I think it's... I'm not going to be as specific this year. I will say Studio Bend.
All right, but okay, if you don't say Studio Bend and it ends up being Studio Bend, you're going to kick yourself.
Okay, I'm going to say it. Studio Bend, Sony Bend is going to work on it.
I think Uncharted is too big for Sony to walk away from, even though Naughty Dog seems to be done with it for now.
I think they've done that with basically all of Naughty Dog's properties, right? Crash, they unloaded off to what Activision made a bunch
Universal,
of stuff.
yeah.
And then Jack and Daxter, there was that horrible one that no one likes or talks about.
One? Yeah.
The
fourth one.
Lost Frontier.
Yeah.
Is that what
Yep.
it's called? Yeah, no one likes that game.
Frontier. Yep.
So I think that we're going to get a new Uncharted. I think that it's going to continue. I don't think it's going to come out this year. I think we're going to hear about it this year. Also, I want it.
You just listed two really bad, like Crash. The series went to crap for a long time, and then Jack and Daxter also did the same. That could happen again if they try and push it to another studio for a mainline.
Yeah, but Jack never recovered. At least Crash recovered.
Took a long
That's
time
true.
though, and a lot of not good games for that to happen.
Yeah. I like.
Speaking of Crash,
This isn't one of my official predictions, but I think we're going to see Spyro 4 this year. So that's my No More Heroes prediction. That's my little bonus prediction.
I just chucked
yes,
it.
all right. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
All right,
Which means
Zach.
it's definitely coming true.
hopefully.
All right, my second one is God of War 2, absolutely delayed to 2022. I don't think it's coming out this year. I think it's probably way too early in its stage of development. It's going to be a huge game. I think they might learn a little bit from Cyberpunk. I don't think they're going to want to push it out too early. I definitely think it's going to get pushed a little bit. 2022 feels right, 4 years after the release of the first one, maybe around the same time. I think it came out in April. So I'm definitely expecting this one to get pushed back quite a bit.
I feel like that's a pretty safe prediction. I feel like there's a good chance that that'll happen.
Yeah. I want to point out on the doc.
On the doc, Zach wrote God of War 2 delayed to 2021. And I thought that
was funny.
2021.
Oh no.
Come on. Get your years
Well, I have
right.
to change my prediction now. The game will be delayed, but it will come out this year.
Okay.
It's delayed within the year.
With
That'd
the
be
delay.
impressive. God, if that
That would be
happens, that'd be
incredible.
hilarious.
Yep.
If that's the thing that
I
comes
typed
true.
those very fast.
That's
I
fair.
apologize.
All right, my last prediction for this year. We've been waiting for it for a while, and I think it's time. We're going to get that upgraded Switch model in the fall. I don't know. I just
nice.
feel like we've been hearing
Wanna
about
get
it for so long. We had those rumors when we were getting, I'm blanking on the name, Switch Lite. When we got the Switch Lite, there was all the rumors about that. We've been hearing the rumors constantly, and now that we've got big games like Breath of the Wild 2, we've been talking about that for a while, that it could really use the extra punch of an upgraded model. I feel like this year is a good time in the fall to get that pro version of the Switch on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested to follow that this year because
They always say, we don't have any hardware in the works. They
said that like
Every time.
8 days before they announced the new 3DS or something like that. Like it's just, you can't ever trust them. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really torn on if I think there's going to be one, because this fall would make a lot of sense. But with the Switch selling as well as it is on its own right now, I just don't know if you roll out a model to fracture the base like that when it is still number one. Like maybe in another year when the PS5 and Xbox Series X pick up steam, maybe that's when they roll it out. Like I just can't decide. I could see this one going either
I
way.
guess that also depends on how long they're really thinking about supporting it, because we're starting to get to the point where you're getting really to the tail end, and at that point you may just focus on getting the successor, whatever that turns into, rather than getting a pro model. So I feel like this year and maybe next year would be the last chances for them to theoretically have this thing out before you're getting too close to whatever comes next.
Yeah, which will probably, I could see the next thing being like the Super Switch.
Yeah.
Like a Wii U, but a better named Wii U.
They better name it
Yeah.
better than the Wii U.
Yeah.
All right, Logan, your last prediction for 2021.
My last prediction is that in August, Cyberpunk will be satisfactory on all platforms that it's released on. I think it's going to be a long
Like I said,
time
the
coming.
earliest.
I don't know. It's kind of an abstract prediction. I don't know how to qualify it. Because, like, if it gets fixed in April, it's technically playable by August, right?
Yeah. If it's fixed before August, you technically are correct. But if it's
But
not
I
fixed
think-
by August,
I say until the summer, it will not be fixed.
Fully until the summer when people are actually happy with it on all the platforms that it is on. We're hearing about these major updates in the next few months. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think this game is going to be a work in progress for at least half of 2021. And I think come August, people will be like, hey, Cyberpunk's pretty good now. So I think that's how long the conversation will take.
I wonder if that thing's ever going to be satisfactory on base PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
Especially with what they've been saying more recently, where it seems like they're trying to temper expectations of what these patches can even do for it. They're just like, oh, don't expect next gen, but expect playable, basically. And I'm like, okay, I feel like you should expect playable as like a base.
I feel like if you pay $60, you should expect playable.
Yeah. So by summer, I'm especially curious what the PS4 and Xbox One versions will be. Base versions. We know that Pro and X will probably be fine, but man, where are those base models going to be at?
Yeah.
God. All right, Zach.
Yep. All right, my last 2021 prediction is a new F-Zero announcement.
Doing it again, going back to that well.
Last year, we joked that F-Zero fans predict this every year, and it never happens. I am now one of those people. I will predict this every year until it happens. I'm not a fan of this series. I am not invested. Logan is now a fan of this series. He is invested. Maybe this year, either Kevin or I will become a fan. I'm expecting one of us to become a fan of the series every year until a new one comes out. So we still have a couple years. I think Logan or Kevin will get into it this year, and then I'll wait until 2022, and then I'll get into it. Yeah, I mean, do it for me.
First.
I thought so.
I'll do it this year.
Well, because it's like
and then you can do it next year.
You're closer to Logan than I am in terms of like distance, so I feel like he could get you back into
gonna
it.
Get me.
Whereas I'm
how
a little bit further
multiplayer
away,
is it?
So
it's very multiplayer. Yeah. Can we race each other?
Yeah, we can.
All right.
Yeah, Zach, you're getting into it.
He might force us to play.
Guaranteed.
All right.
That's
this
my
year
other
I will
prediction.
get into the F-Zero, and then there will be a new announcement.
Okay. Man, so we can just
wait for it.
We can just pencil in a prediction for Zach for every year for eternity, basically.
July 19th.
Nice.
That's when they're going to announce it. All right, I wrote that down.
I hope we're going to come back to this episode and
mark
you're a prophet.
your calendars.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
July 19th, everybody.
Hilarious.
Mark your calendars. All right, that's my prediction. If they announce it on July 18th, incorrect prediction. 0 points.
0 points.
Yep.
God, you're really hard on yourself. All right, we're going on long enough. Those are our predictions for 2021. Look forward to this time next year when we look back and see how well we did. We did well for 2020.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Let's see how
a very unpredictable year, and we somehow managed.
Yeah,
we
did pretty well. All right, final thoughts before we wrap this thing up.
I made a weird impulse purchase I'd like to share.
All right.
Oh,
make it quick.
This is exciting.
I bought Temtem on PS5.
Temtem, really? Why did you do that?
Because I read this review that talked about every way it improves upon Pokemon, and I'm like, that sounds good.
Okay.
So I bought it.
All right.
That's all.
All right. Zach, anything you want to add? Did you buy Temtem as well?
I was actually going to make a joke about buying Temtem, but I didn't actually buy Temtem. So I have no news. I'm just going to be playing Yakuza and then Divinity and all that old stuff. But I'm just excited. This is going to be a big year. Now that I have F-Zero, I have to add it to the docket. But it's getting insane. There's too many things I got to play. But
too many games. It's all too many games every year. All right.
Sure. Like 8 F-Zeros?
Yeah. Okay. No, there's only like 3,
ish.
Right?
7? 6?
There's like 6.
How many F-Zeros? 6? Okay.
There's 6 F-Zeros? Wasn't there the one on the SNES, and then there's a handheld one, and then there's GX, and...
SNES, N64, GameCube, and 3 on the GBA.
They made 3 on the GBA?
Only two came out in the US, the third.
Okay. Man, they must have been doing that every year, because the GBA wasn't around too long.
Yeah. And then the series died.
Man,
yep.
Brutal. One little side note, Toshihiro Nagoshi, the Yakuza director, has made comments recently saying that he wouldn't be opposed to going back to F-Zero because he was the director on GX.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to tweet at him to
And make Monkey Ball too, please.
19th.
Make a
Man,
that man's just a legend.
he's basically done all of our favorite games.
Yes, he
Yeah.
is spearheading our favorite series.
Incredible. What a
Yeah.
guy. All right,
Incredible guy.
that's going to do it for us in this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Fridays. The audio version of the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. We've also got the video version of the podcast on our YouTube page, Ode to Games. We're up there every week with a new episode of the podcast. So if you want the video version, you can find that there. We're on Twitter at Ode to Games. We're on Twitch at Ode to Games. Man, we should really start streaming there more sometime in the future.
We should.
Eventually, we'll be doing more with that. But that is also there to peruse. There's a couple of things up there from Logan. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.